Welcome to our immigration podcast. We put out a podcast every week talking about immigration news and immigration developments in the United States. Check us out. Today we're talking about a couple stories. We're talking about the green cards wasted last year and what that means for the green cards that will be issued this year. Green card numbers are very, very important. We'll hit that story for you today. We're talking about USCIS extending some of the COVID flexibility that they established last year when it comes to responding to cases. We'll hit that story up and give you some more news on that. We'll also be talking about the Trump rule for Remain in Mexico. The Biden administration is fighting that. And we'll also hit the H1B wage rule, which is also in the news. Finally, we end with a couple of questions from our clients that we use to highlight what's going on in immigration today. So check out our podcast. Last year, USCIS failed to issue the full amount of green cards that they're allotted each year to give to individuals who apply in the employment category and in the family category. Now, this is really, really important because there are literally people in some categories waiting for green cards 10 years. Other categories could be even 20 years. There's a very, very long line of individuals who are qualified, able to get their green card, but are simply waiting until immigration gets to them in this process. So when I say that USCIS wasted or did not issue about 200,000 green cards last year, that's a very, very big deal because it represents individuals and people and families who've been waiting for a long time. Now, about 80,000 of the green cards that were not used are actually going to fall into the, about 122,000 green cards that were not issued are actually going to move from the family category to the employment-based category. This is really good because the employment-based categories have very long lines and they are allowed to issue 140,000 green cards a year. With the new 122 extra, they'll be up at about 262,000 green cards available for individuals in the employment-based green card category. Now, employment-based green cards have different categories, individuals with high skills and individuals with bachelor's degrees and individuals in just a skilled worker category. There's a couple more categories in there as well. Those groups do have lines, do have waiting periods, and they represent individuals who are working for U.S. companies now or in the United States doing entrepreneur things or investing in the United States and building businesses. So this 262,000 green cards available this year is going to be a very, very big deal. And in fact, if you want to really know what's going to be most important, it's going to be in the next 4 to 6 months if we see the Biden administration either allocating new resources to the USCIS to process all these green cards or shifting resources or hiring new staff. That's going to be what you want to watch for in the news this year because if they don't do that, I can tell you right now that they will not be finishing those 262,000 green cards that they have for the employment categories. Last year, it came down to the final month where people were frantically sending in applications, trying to get their green card application in on time before the deadline so they can qualify. Even then, USCIS failed to get these people who were eligible, allowed to, and in time, filed the application in time, failed to get them approved for the green card. So I don't have a lot of high hopes, and I'm becoming a little bit more critical of the Biden administration in the sense that this is one of the missions that the Biden administration should be able to accomplish. They came in with a lot of big immigration plans. They came in with a lot of thoughts about what they want to do. Well, just doing the basic job should get done. And doing the basic job should be completing your USCIS green cards that are allotted to you by Congress every year. We'll be updating you on that and keep you posted. But right now, there are about 9 million green cards in the backlog. And about 7 million of those are family-based green cards. Those are people who have family, they've applied for, and they're waiting. So to give you an idea of what we're dealing with, 9 million in the backlog, there's 260,000 available this year. That's not even 1/9 of it, right? So, you can't even break that down into like cutting this 9 million backlog down significantly. So the Biden administration's goal and agenda, and any president, should be to do what the law allows them to do. So like I said, I've definitely got an opinion on this. We're going to follow up with you guys and let you know more about it as it comes. All right, USCIS has extended flexibility requests. Now, as you know, with COVID over the last, we're going to be hitting 2 years soon, a lot of shutdowns, a lot of difficulties. And with immigration, the difficulty has been how they can function internally with staff in the mailroom, staffing within their buildings, and at the same time meet all the deadlines that they have to meet. If you file a case with immigration, sometimes they ask you to send in more documentation. And that letter is called a request for additional evidence, an RFE, is a very, very important document because it's only good, it says right on there, for 87 days. You must respond within 87 days. Otherwise, we'll just end your case. We'll terminate it. We'll cancel it. We'll say you failed to respond and you're no longer eligible. So what they did last year is they created what's called the word flexibility. Flexibility in responding to requests. Now, last year they had flexibility saying that it will give extra time for specific kinds of filings to respond to RFEs and other types of documents. All right, so this year they've announced it again, and let me throw the list up for you guys so you can see. So they've added flexibility to requests for evidence, continuations for requests for evidence, the N14, notices of intent to deny, notice of intent to revoke, notice of intent to rescind, notice of intent to terminate at the regional centers, and motions to reopen for the N400 under a specific category. All right, you can see the list up here. So essentially what they've said is for any document in this list that is issued between March of 2020 and March of 2022, they're going to allow an additional 60 calendar days to the deadline. That means you have a deadline, let's say it's in 87 days. They say you automatically have an additional 60 days, okay? So this list is really important because if you have difficulty getting documents because government offices are closed, or if you're having a hard time getting your evidence together, you have an additional 60 days. This flexibility is really important. Keep it in mind. On top of that, they've added additional consideration for these two forms right here, the I-290B, the Notice of Appeal or a motion, and to Form N-336. In both of these, they'll give a 90-day calendar days from the issuance date if it was something that's been issued prior to March 26, 2022, okay? So USCIS flexibility, very important because it does affect you and your cases. Keep track of these dates. They're really important to get your approval done. All right, in regards to the next story, we've got the Biden administration dealing with what's called the MPP or Remain in Mexico policy. Now, if you recall, President Trump issued a policy, the Migrant Protection Protocols, I think, MPP, where they said that anybody applying for asylum has to stop at the border, stay on the other side of the U.S. southern border, and apply with the USCIS officer at that time who will adjudicate their application through an interview process. Through court decisions, the Biden administration has been forced to continue that policy. And the good news is that they did file directly to the Supreme Court a request to review this court hearing, this court order, so they can get a decision this year. The request was an appeals court said we have to continue to go with the Remain in Mexico policy. And the request the Biden administration made to the Supreme Court was, hear our case this year, hear it soon, and make a decision on whether we're allowed to deviate from that policy, creating our own policy, or do we have to follow that policy up till now? And it's really important because there are other kinds of policies the Biden administration has in regards to what a refugee is, in regards to resettlement, and to other programs that this Remain in Mexico policy can't get in the way, okay? So we'll know more about that soon, and we'll update you here on that process. We have an H1B lottery update for you. DHS has finally officially removed the wage rule or the H1B selection final rule. The Biden administration has said that they will abide by any rules that were from the existing Trump administration. This rule was put in place that said that all lotteries must be selected based upon the wage. Now, we've gone over this before, and the details of the lawsuit that challenged this rule was really, really good. In the end, the judge found that the rule was made by an administrator, the head of DHS, who's not allowed to make this rule, okay? Because he was not properly appointed. It's I believe it's Chad Wolf, who was appointed improperly by Trump, and therefore everything he did was thrown out. In any case, DHS has removed that rule. We're heading towards our lottery this year in March. So all you guys with H1Bs pending, it's back to business as usual, which isn't so great, but it's still something. Business as usual is going to be a lottery in March. That lottery will be based upon a random selection. They will be selecting first the bachelor's and second in the master's cap, okay? So that is what we're looking forward to this year. Got a couple questions for you guys. Love these questions. Always bring them on. We love to hear them. This question is, are you able to file the STEM OPT extension now online or only by mail. Okay, so to give you guys an update on that, OPT is an online filing that you can do. And what you're able to do online, this is very important, is the I-765. If you know the STEM extension, there's actually another form there that your school has to submit to your DSO. Okay, so your question to me is, can I file my my OPT online? Yes, you can file your I-765 online to USCIS. But before you do that, you'll need to have an I-20, which requires you to file the training program form with your DSO. Okay, best thing would be talk to your DSO. International student offices have their SEVIS system. They work very closely with the USCIS, and they try to make sure that they follow all those rules. All right. Another question we've got is, I applied for my U visa back in 2017. I haven't heard anything from them. What should I do? Should I worry about my case? I thought I had a lot of good evidence, etc., etc. Bottom line here is that the U visas are allotted in a numerical fashion. That means there's 10,000 U visas per year. With a number of 10,000, I can just tell you we have more than that each year coming in, and as a result, there's a backlog. The U visas are backlogged for 4 to 5 years, and that means individuals filing their cases in 2016 were getting their U visas approved in 2021 and are still getting their U visas approved. If you filed your case in 2017, you're getting close to your place in line, but you're not exactly there. What you should be doing if you don't have it is filing for a work permit, an EAD. President Biden opened up the EAD process for U visa applicants in June or July of this past year, and that is still open and available to you. You still have to wait for your 5 years to come up, probably this year, but I would go ahead and file the EAD, and that should help you get some work permission, and it will show you where you are in line, okay? All right, thanks so much for checking into our podcast. That's it for this week. We will, we love your comments and questions. Give them to us. We'll even do a whole question podcast one day because we have so many questions that come in. But give us your questions and feedback down below. Give us a thumbs up, a like, and subscribe. And if you ever need us, give us a call here to GigLaw. Get an appointment with me. We'll chat a bit. Thanks. Take care. Bye.